Hello everyone. I hope you are staying safe at home and had a great weekend. In this video, I'm going to do two things. First of all is I'm going to review things we did last week. The second thing is I'm going to let you know what you need to complete for this week. Last week, we did two things. First of all, you did the online quiz 4, which is related to professional individual sport. This quiz, most of students did a great job. We're going to look at those quiz questions really quick, and you'll find out like majority of students, they are very good in this quiz. Second thing you did last week was sharing your experience with me about how you cope with the COVID-19. Most of students are experiencing some challenges during this COVID-19. Particularly, a lot of students mentioned about your internships has been impacted by the COVID-19. Some of the internship has been canceled, some internship has been postponed. Right, so some students express their concerns about the future job markets. And also a lot of students mentioned about the challenges of learning online. First of all, I have to say most of students in this class are doing a great job. Most of you follow the deadline, send me a good quality of your work. I think most of you are doing a great job. So I hope that you can continue working hard. We still got another two weeks and plus the final weeks. I hope you can continue work hard and let's finish strong in this class. Again, as I mentioned multiple times, if you have any question, concern, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. And I will be happy to help you, and I'm happy to try everything that I have to do to give you support during these difficult times. Okay, so first of all, let's go and look at the online quiz 4. In the online quiz 4, you look at the average score. The online quiz 4 is 88%. Right, very good. Average time you guys spent 13 minutes to finish the online quiz 4. Most of the questions, you don't have a lot of issues. The first question is, which of the following statement correctly describe our golf governing body, RNA? The answer is this one, right? 93% of students answered this one correctly. So it collaborated with USGA to set the rules of the golf, right? And others, like it oversees the PGA Tour and LPGA Tour. So RNA is the governing body that mainly oversees golf activities outside the United States and Mexico, right? So PGA Tour and LPGA Tour that mainly taking place in the United States. So PGA Tour and LPGA Tour, their main governing body is the USGA, United States Golf Association, right? So it does not organize US Open. USGA organize US Open. RNA organize the Open Championship, which is also called British Open. Right, its headquarters is not located in England. Headquarters is located in Scotland. Right, we talk about golf was invented by Scottish. So second question, which of the following is not the characteristic of the Association of the Tennis Men's Professionals, ATP? You look at Association of Tennis Men's Professional, you know, they only work with the men's professional tennis players, right? So the answer is establish the basic rule and oversee the Grand Slam. So they say non-characteristic, right? Who established the basic rule of the tennis? Is ITF, which is the International Tennis Association, right? They collaborated with the Grand Slam committee to oversee the Grand Slam, right? So ATP does not establish the basic rule for play, but it's a player association that's responsible for the destination of the tournament. So it developed unique partnerships that is between the player members and tournament members, and also it works really closely with men's professional tennis player only, right? The WTA, which is Women Tennis Association, work really closely with the professional women tennis players. Okay, question number 2. Question number 3. Which of the following governing body is hosting the US Open Tennis, right? So USTA is organizing the US Open. We talk about 4 major Grand Slam events in tennis. They are organized by their nation's tennis association. The Australian Open organized by Tennis Australia. British Open, it's Wimbledon, is organized by the British Tennis Association, right? And the French Open is organized by French tennis associations, right? So these governing bodies in the U.S. Open tennis. Which of the following correctly describe about the feature of the PGA of America and the PGA Tour? Right, so this one is the PGA Tour does not host any of the 4 major championships. Golf also have 4 majors, right? So PGA Tour is not organizing any of these 4 major championships, right? The next one, the PGA of America is mainly focused on professional plays, right? PGA Tour is mainly focused on professional play, not PGA of America, right? The PGA Championship is hosted by the PGA Tour. No, PGA Championship is hosted by the PGA of America, right? The PGA of America is only served with men, professional, instructor, and player. That's incorrect. The PGA of America work with not just professional instructor and players, right? It's not just men's, but also with the women's as well. Okay, so the next question, super easy. Briefly describe about the main characteristic differences between professional team sport and professional individual sport in terms of the event organization, revenue resources, and also the players' incomes, right? So this is actually coming from the slide, really straightforward. Most students did a great job. Second one is read the article from the Financial Times and what strategy does the ATP use for attracting the younger generation, right? They're changing the rules, they're using social media, and they develop the tournament for the younger players, right? So using a lot of different strategies. Also very easy. The article is also pretty easy for you to read, right? So this is about online quiz 4, right? So very easy. So what do you have to do for next week, week 14? This week, week 14. Okay. So this week we're going to talk about Olympic movement, right? The Olympic movement. So this is something we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the history of the Olympic movement. We talk about 5 major governing bodies involve the Olympic movement, including the IOC, which is International Olympic Committee, right? International Federation, right? National Olympic Committee, National Governing Body, Organizing Committee of the Olympic Games. So 5 different types of Olympic governing bodies involved. They will have a different role and different responsibilities. So I provide a lot of explanation about what each of the responsibility are for each of the governing bodies involved in the Olympic movement. We'll also talk about some of the major issues, including the Olympic bidding process, how IOC try to engage with the younger generations, what strategy do they use, and also what the doping control policy has been utilized nowadays. In terms of reading, this is reading and the textbook chapter 10. Please make sure you read the textbook chapter 10 and also watch the lecture videos before working on the quiz, right? So textbook chapter 10. And also there's another article for you to read. Lecture have 2 parts. First part, we'll talk about the organizational structure of the Olympic Games. Second part, talk about some major issue. Here's the lecture notes. And the next one, what you have to complete 2 things. Same as previous one. First of all, you need to finish online quiz 4, which is Olympic governments. The deadline for submitting online quiz 4 is Friday at midnight. The second thing is you have to do the online discussion 4, also related to Olympic governance. Okay, for the online discussion 4, again, you have to provide your answer before Wednesday night at midnight. And before Friday night at midnight, you have to respond to another 2 students' answers. Right, so let's have a quick look about the online discussion here. Online discussion is pretty easy and straightforward. They say basically as an IOC member, one of the biggest concern is you try to reach out to the younger generations, right? So if you're currently working for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympic Games, one of the questions you have facing right now is you need to add new sport to the Olympic programs. So you have to think about what kind of sport that you would like to add to the Olympic programs, and you also have to justify your decisions. Right, for these discussions, there are a couple of materials I want you to think about it, right? So first of all, you have to, for instance, if you recommend the e-sport to be added to the 2028 Olympic Games, you just talk a little bit about the history of the e-sport and whether it has been included in the events before, how many numbers of the national federations actually have the national levels of federations, and also what's the levels of the participations in the world. So that requires you to do some research, right? Either you recommend esport or recommend lacrosse, or recommend right like Australian rule rugby, wherever you want to recommend. Cricket, whatever sport you want to add it to the Olympic Games. So you have to do some research to look at whether they have an international federation, how many countries actually having this sport right now, and what are the benefits they can bring into the Olympic Games, right? Those benefits is about like what will be the potential revenue source they can bring to the Olympic Games, whether you'll be able to trigger to target the younger generations. So whether you would help the Olympic Games to be watched by more people, right? So you have to go and explain a little bit about it, right? So you also talk about the gender equality is also very important, whether the sport include both men and women, right? So because this is one of the philosophy that Olympic IOC is trying to emphasize during the Olympic movements right now, right? So also you talk about popularities, right? How many spectators will be attracted if this sport has been added to the Olympic Games, and also potential business models and what kind of potential income they can contribute to the 2028 Olympic Games, and what will be the potential costs for having these sports. For instance, if you want to add esport to the Olympic Games, right? Maybe you do need to use one venues, whether you have to create new venues that will add some additional costs, right? Since you add some additional costs, whether you be able to find some other resources, help the IOC or help the local Olympic Games governing bodies to really cover those costs. So you have to go and think about this decision justified, right? Based on those criteria we mentioned here. Okay, if you have any question, email is still the best way to get hold of me, and I will try my best to respond your email within 24 hours. I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.